So today we're going to be picking up after last week's game. We're going to be picking up where they finished the zoo. They went to Olo. They were like, yo, we finished the zoo. Olo came back and he was like, yo, the sergeant is kind of losing his mind, but more people are MIA and they're at the Dragonfly Pagoda. Now remember, this is a big festival going on, and this is kind of like one of my biggest complaints is they how can I put this? And I know I'm gonna get backlash for it, and it's fine. I wish they put in, like, obviously there's areas for downtime between each mission. You can have the players do downtime stuff, and maybe that's just on my end. I'm lacking. This is supposed to be this massive like World's Fair, and they have all this stuff everywhere. There's not enough of that stuff in this book. This book focuses greatly on what's happening, like the missions and stuff like that, and that's what it's supposed to focus on. And normally in the very back of the book, they give you, and they do give this to you, right? They give you this they give you kind of like the GM toolbox. So they call it the adventure toolbox, and it tells you about everything going on. I always find that like when a game starts with like a fair or a party or something, they never really give you fair stuff. So it's then up to the GM to make stuff up. That's fine. I should be doing that, having my players do stuff on their downtime. It's just they come back and then the next day, it's like being at work. So they get done with their shift. They all go home, take a shower, go to bed, you know? And suddenly it's now the next day. They come to work. They're like, hey, listen, you have to go do XYZ. And that's fine. Obviously, I'm going to be putting stuff in here kind of at the end for downtime activities because they aren't like a major city. So we're a New York-based podcast. We understand what it is. They're in Manhattan for us. Like, this is, when we talk major city, we talk Manhattan because all of us know that. So it's there is a lot of opportunity, and there are shops everywhere. So if my players wanted to go to a shop, they can. It's just every activity, because they are guards, it seems so much more important. Like, oh man, we have to go here. Oh man, we have to go here. So that's fine. It has not rushed, but it has like this very urgent feel because you are a guard, and everything that's happening is life-threatening, right? Quote unquote life-threatening for the NPCs. But I digress. So we're at the Dragonfly Pagoda. At the pagoda, they were told, hey, listen, people are MIA at the pagoda. Can you go check it out? Then the players go to the pagoda and they meet a Tianese woman by the name of Ama, A-M-A, Ama. And she's like, hey, listen, yeah, we got people missing, but there's also a riot happening. And they're like, a riot? What do you mean a riot's happening? And she explains that she hired on some kobolds to help complete the structure. This massive, like, it's a massive dragonfly. And the kobolds then started to riot and took people prisoner. So now they're going in, you know, SWAT team style. So they're going in, they ran in, and they met a kobold in area C2 that you can see over here. Over in C2, there's a kobold. Now, this is all trapped, right? But I didn't want to set the traps off right away because the moment they go off, they do a lot of damage. They like just hurt players. And my players, none of them are fighters or barbarians because they tell you don't play a barbarian. They don't tell you not to play a fighter. So we have a monk, we have a witch, we have a summoner, we had a magus, but sadly the magus is now a wizard fighters hybrid. And we have a cleric who is not a fighter cleric. They didn't go the war path, they went the Healy path. And the casty path, which is fine. No, none of them have a lot of hit points. So I didn't want to set the traps off. So I said, okay, the traps are going to be the second line. So if anyone goes up to the second line of traps, they're going to get hit with them. That's it. You get sprayed up, taken out. So my players all get to the first line. They're all kind of standing around. Then there's a Cobalt in the background, and the Cobalt pops her head up and is like, hey, what's going on? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. They're like, hey, we're the guards. Get us your leader. The book actually goes over this. The book says she goes get the leader. The leader comes. The leader comes from area C10 over here. So I was like, okay, 10 minutes go by. All of a sudden, you see this leader show up. Leader comes, and then there are Cobalts in this area, C3. And the book basically says the leader comes in hostile. If they make any kind of checks, the leader can go to indifferent, but more or less does not believe their guards or won't even listen to anything that's happening. So my players are like, hey, we're the guards. Give us your captors. She's like, no. They're like, what do you mean, no? And she's like, I'm not giving up my captors. You're not guards. I don't believe you. You could get the F out of here. Like, bring me. And then they're like, so what do you want? And she just starts rambling off. And they just kind of spout off different things they want. None of them know what they want. And none of them are, none of them directly, they just have grand illusions. So she's like, I want the seat on the council. They're like, yeah, we'll get you the seat on the council. Just give up whoever you want. And yeah, then we could talk this out. And she's like, no, that's my leverage. I'm not giving it up. So they're like, well, now we're going to get into a fight. And they pick a fight, and it was a huge fight. And as the fight's going on, I'm getting messages in Discord from our patrons and friends. And they're like, yo, this is a team wipe. Because at this point, I believe she brought, so there was one Cobalt, there are two in here. And she brings from like C10, I think like 4. So they outnumber the party. Nice thing is the Cobalts are kind of on par with the party at this point. Because the party, remind you, is still level 1. So this is a very interesting campaign. It's super interesting because none of these are easy. They are actually really difficult. The zoo thing, my players hated that. Straight up hated it. It's a really cool encounter. It's not a level 1 encounter. Unless, and like, I don't know what it is. This campaign seems tiered out for like, not higher players, but players who have been playing for a while. Because what's going to happen is the new, like, if I'm a new player, right? So I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight. I'm a caster. I'm going to cast stuff. So back with the zoo, these animals are there, and it's owl bear, and it's typical, right? We see the art. It's all over. You always see the art of players fighting, or the heroes fighting an owl bear and stuff like that. Players are gonna, like, you're gonna in your head be like, I'm gonna pick a fight with this. How hard could it be? We just dealt with goblins and some other bull, squash before. It can't be that bad. It's bad. It's an owl bear. It's gonna wipe your party, especially if you have 4 players. It's gonna wipe your party. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad because I obviously, being a podcast group, we have a larger number of players here. It would have been bad if it was just like 4 because the fight would have broken out. And they would have gotten, like, stomped out. They would have had to start to run. They would have just fled back. And DM pro tip here, if you're DMing this and your players are getting, like, pushed back, just let them get pushed out. Don't chase them. There's no need for the monsters to chase. The monsters' goal is to maintain this area. Now, what's going to happen is that's going to set up a weird situation. Because they're going to be like, yo, we're going to go get reinforcements. And then the book says there are no reinforcements. So they're going to be like, how are we supposed to deal with this? Now, remember, they're in a city. Now, what I was thinking was way earlier. Chapter blah, blah, blah. Let me see. Like, chapter 1. Let me scroll over to it. Excuse me for doing this, and it's going to hurt your eyes. I apologize. All the way over here. Blah. Chapter 1. You come into the Tipsy Tangu, and that's where you have your encounter with Scabs, Antario, Bolar, the heroes, right? Not the heroes, the adventuring group in the tavern. this is a role-playing encounter. It can turn into a fight, but it's more or less a role-playing encounter, and it's supposed to like kind of shake the party loose, right? First encounter, shake them loose, get them really into the game. But I was thinking was, let's say you have a party of 4 people, and it kind of goes south over here in, sorry, scrolling back, it's gonna hurt your eyes a little bit if you're watching this on Twitch. So let's say you're back here, and your players get pushed out, and let's say they had a conversation with the adventurers. Maybe they go. It just so happens the adventurers show up, seeing trouble and wanting to make a quick coin. The cops see them and deputize them. Say, hey, listen, you're all going to be deputized. Now you can give your players 4 more characters, and that makes 8. And then that kind of evens out that scenario where, like, now they're a little beefier. Now they are playing 2 characters each. It does create a little bit harder thinking. Excuse me. But it does create like a little bit more of a balance, because this place is difficult. But gladly my players didn't have that happen. What started the fight for them was Copper, the gnome monk, who has he's kind of like a bad Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He picks a fight, he punches one of the kobolds. He actually steps up into C2, which sets off the trap. Hits, I think, 3 players. The kobolds now start shooting, and melee breaks out. The head kobold lady heads back. 2 more as she goes back, she grabs more kobolds. This whole place is just full of kobolds at the time. So it's just full of kobolds. So she heads back, getting more kobolds, going back to C10, kind of remustering herself. Party, knocks unconscious. Tina and Jeff handcuff all the kobolds after they're unconscious. Kind of sit them up. And then they proceed in. Again, it's a little weird scenario because you are supposed to be making arrest. I think Neil Bog at this point writes citations for all of them and just kind of throws it on the bodies of the kobolds knocked out. They get into C3. C3 is supposed to be an encounter, but those kobolds kind of moved up to C2. They left. They get into C4. Beautiful, well written in the book. The imagery is amazing. They understand what's going on. Then they get into the C5 area, C5, C6, C7. They get into here. They kind of open this door. I said there was a trap here where there was like a statue propped up, and if they had opened the door, it would have pulled the statue down, knocking out the rest of this. So this all is, if you can see it, it's all tiny. It's like wood planks, but then they say like it's about 30 feet down. It's just a hole full of spikes and rocks and debris and shit. And it's in the Undercity part of Absalom. So you have to understand where the Radiant Festival is. It's built on top of a quarter that collapsed. So think like, was it San Francisco? Oh no, California. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong. The fire, the Great Fire that happened in, the earthquake that happened, and then they kind of rebuilt on top of it. The big earthquake, and then they rebuilt on top. Not in the 90s. It was like in the 1800s. They like rebuilt on top of it. I think in Chicago, in the fires, they did the same thing. They rebuilt on top of it. Same effect. They just kind of rebuilt on top of this. And down there, there are ghouls and gas and undead and just monsters. So this kind of falls into that. Now, if they had not knocked that over, they would have had to like kind of jump. And you see that's an X right there. So the X's are traps, pitfalls, and they collapse. So they would have jumped, and then they would have landed, and then they would have had to make a save, because then that would have collapsed. And they would have been like, wow. So very Goonies style, right? Thankfully, my player, Fabio, kind of like didn't rip the door down, kind of opened it and saw the string and was like, whoa, and then stopped. Then they kind of opened it slightly and cut the string, and the statue didn't fall. And then they came out, they saw the statue, they were like, oh, it was going to fall. That's terrible. They came in to see 6 over here, and C7, there's a dead body. They see the statues, there's a bunch of statues over there. Um, C6, they kind of hear buzzing behind the door, and they're like, you know what? I don't want none of that. Leave the door shut. They come in. They're in C5. They decide to leap over onto the stairwell, and they now know in C10 is what's her face, the battle leader, Rekarek. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but this guy right here, she is the battle leader. Unique monster, CR2. In this area, there's a bunch of kobolds with her, and they're gonna get into a fight. They know who she is. She was the one who came forward, was like, nope, I'm not dealing with you. They're kind of in it. They're upset that they got into that previous fight, so they're ready. They just want to kind of pick a fight with her and finish it. Now, as you can see, this is chapter 2, and there's only 2 more chapters. So what's coming up is they're gonna pick a fight with her, have that end. Then this is interesting. So what really happens, the really important part of this entire section, right? So if you're playing this, and again, spoilers, if you're playing this whole thing hinges on the fact that people are missing. Constantly people are missing, and you kind of want to drive that home, that people are going missing constantly, because that is the most important part of this AP. That leads into the murder hotel. So, which is reminiscent of H.H. Holmes, who is America's first serial killer, and he created this massive hotel, which was a murder house. Like, you would go into the hotel, and he would kill you in gruesome fashions, and it was him and a female that he worked with, and that's the same effect here. Is a character that they haven't really met is H.H. Holmes, is a serial killer. Created this murder hotel. They actually think H.H. Holmes is Jack the Ripper. Well, there's a theory, right? No one knows who Jack the Ripper is, but there's a theory that H.H. Holmes is Jack the Ripper, and there is a time period where Holmes is in the UK, in London, during the Whitechapel murders. So, very similar effect. This guy has a murder hotel, and that's the point. All the missing people are at the murder hotel, and the players are going to go there and be like, hey, what the F? Like, why are you murdering people? So it's a very interesting I find it interesting. My little brother was huge when he was younger into the Ripper case, and he thought the lore was interesting. It's a very interesting lore. I got into it by learning about it through him, and then learning about H.H. Holmes. And I love like spooky stuff, like actual spooky stuff. Well, fictional spooky stuff, meaning like Halloween, ghost stories, and stuff like that. And during October, they'll always, on like the Travel Channel, they'll always run like Halloween stuff, and Holmes always comes up. So that's why I kind of know about him and the murder hotel that he created in America. So he's the first serial killer. They kind of call him the first serial killer in America. I'm sure there were others. There's an argument for everything. You're not the first, but I think he was the most prolific, and the fact that he had this massive hotel kind of made it the scariest, right? Like, you could just go there and get murdered. But, so, back to the actual story. What's going on here is this person, this kobold, not person, Skirk. I love kobolds. Skerix, Skerix, Skerix. Now, Skerix is a cobalt caster. So, it's a dragon mage, and they tell you gotta have the bestiary, and you'll find the stats for the dragon mage and such. Skerix is not in the mood for a fight. Skerix is actually holding So when the kobolds took over the Dragonfly Pagoda, they grabbed the people there, and then they kind of kept them. Skerrix does not know about the missing laborers. The thing is, the missing laborers went to the murder hotel, and they're murdered at the murder hotel. But Skerrix is important, and this is why I say it's important. It's a social encounter. So at this point, your players are going to be coming in hot. I know my players are going to be coming in hot. They're not going to see where the people are. They're going to see the stairs. They're going to be like, oh, there's stuff upstairs, right? Maybe they'll hear bouncing or stepping or stuff, right? Not a problem. They're going to hear stuff upstairs. Then they're going to say, okay, we have to go upstairs. They're going to go upstairs. They're going to see Skerrix and a few of the other ones, and they're holding kind of like a knife. I feel like since they're a mage, maybe they're holding a wand at someone's head, like a standoff, right? And my player's going to be like, hey, what's going on? Put that down. Skerrix is going to be like, no, if I put it down, you're going to kill me. I've seen what you did to my friends. You know, my battle leader's now gone. I heard that fight. I'm not putting this down. You're just going to murder me. I don't want any of that. And then, and then they're going to talk Skerrix down. The point of this is more or less to exposition dump on my players, because then it comes down that German Hofer is a powerful labor broker who provided the kobolds to Amma, and this person is Hofer is part of like the underground section, literally is in the under part of the city, and is in in the undercity, and is in there's they call it, what do they call it, the House of Plains in the undercity. And the kobolds know of a back door. So Skerrix is important because Skerrix is going to be like, hey, I know a back way in, but I want immunity. Like, I want immunity from all this stuff. Like, I just want to be let go, let some of my friends go. You keep the battle leader and put them away. Just, I want out. I just want to go back to the Darklands, or I just want to head off into the sunset. I got nothing with this. I have no interest in being here. Now, the funny part is, Copper, the gnome, was originally supposed to be Copper, the kobold. I don't know why he changed it. It would have been a really cool encounter, but I digress. So Skerrix is important. Skerrix is information dump. Players are going to get all this stuff as per normal. My players then are going to want to get information, and then this is where you get into the Undercity section. Now, the Undercity, I kind of see them getting through this section. Sorry, scrolling back. I see them getting through C10, getting up to C11, going upstairs. Right here, C12. Boom, boom, boom. This should maybe take them, because it's a combat encounter, maybe 15, 30 minutes, right? Nothing crazy. They're going to get upstairs. They're going to speak to Skerrix. That's maybe another 15 minutes. Then they're going to go into the Undercity. This is the next section, the Undercity right here. Right here. And that's going to be important. That's, by the way, that's Lem. These are a bunch of ghouls. That's cool. They've already fought skeletons coming out from the Undercity, so they already know the Undercity has undead. I love this picture, by the way, of Lem. Lem is a halfling bard, and it's got like this like really cool Roman style gladius sword, his silver flute, right? That's a flute or a lute, flute. And I just love the coloring. I think it's a really cool character. Lem is prevalent in this book because you see Lem is there, and then Lem is also on, if I can jump to the first page. Page 1? Let's see. Nope. Not going to do it. Oh, why have you forsaken me? But Lem's on the cover. Lem is actually on the cover. Let's see, I'll just hold it up to the camera. Lem's on the cover. You can see Lem fighting this cockatrice. So there's Lem fighting a cockatrice, which is really interesting. I don't know why they went with Lem. I guess because he has high charisma. Lem would be kind of the face He's the bard, would talk to everyone. I this is just me. I wish, I don't know, maybe later on in the other books they have it. But the books are beautiful. Like the scrolling, the coloring, it's beautiful, right? I kind of wish, you know how like, I wish there was a page that would talk about, like, have like a little story of like what's going on in this picture, right? Like, so like, oh, Lem gets attacked by a bunch of ghouls and he's hanging out with Harsk, and Harsk is down there, and Harsk, you know, like whatever. And I think that would be cool. So as normal, the players are gonna go back to speak to Olo. Hey, how's it going? Hi, sorry, I just saw that. Oh, thank you very much for the subscription for 5 months. We appreciate that. And yeah, you're super awesome. Thank you for being here. We're just going over some basic stuff, very quick. Nothing too crazy today. Oh, excuse me. I had Chinese noodles, so I've been having like ramen for like the piss. It's not ramen, right? So on Monday, what's really cool, sorry, I have to put this out there. Fabio, one of our players, one of my best friends, my brother, he found us. Well, I gotta give you a shout out. That's why, but he got us a really cool deal sponsorship with this place. If you're in New York City, it's called Rock and Ramen, ROC space N, the letter N, and then space ramen, and it's up in, I think, New Rochelle. So if you're ever in New York, head up there. We were there yesterday. We did this whole cool thing with Chef Wayne. Chef Wayne played Ramen Fury with us, and it was amazing. And he made us all like his famous ramen, and it was the like, so it's it's Caribbean flavors. So it's Caribbean infused ramen. So it was amazing. Like, oh, it was so delicious. I can't get over how crazy good it was. So it's a 2 hour drive for me because I'm coming from Long Island. And it was worth it. I was actually texting Fabio when I got home, and I was like, yo, I have to make that 2 hour drive every month just for that ramen because it was worth it. So if you're ever in the city, this isn't a plug or whatever. Well, I guess it's a plug. But if you're ever in the city, go to Rock and Ramen. It's awesome. Chef Wayne is amazing. The store, it's they do, obviously because of Corona, they're very conscious about that. I believe they only allow 4 people in the restaurant at a time, and they do takeout, so complete takeout. So because we were there, we were eating up a lot of their space, so he wasn't letting other customers come in. So he did lose because of us, and we appreciate him and we love him, and I want to say thank you so much. But keep an eye out for that because that will be going up on our YouTube page and on our podcast. You will be able to hear us play and talk to Chef Wayne and see us play Ramen Fury. I'm not gonna say who wins, but it was a very intense game between Fabio and Chef Wayne, and Chef Wayne's daughter. And they are just awesome. Like, if you're ever that way, go check it out. If you like just Caribbean food, like curry goat, oxtail, it was just amazing. And then to have it mixed with like ramen, and you wouldn't. That's why Chef Wayne, right? Like, because he thought that, and it was really cool. Yeah, it was amazing. It was actually some of the best ramen I've ever had. So I had that yesterday. It was really good. Fabio ordered for me because he goes there a lot more than I do. So I was like, get me whatever. So he got me something he knows I would like. It was, I forget the name of it. You know what? I'm just gonna look it up. Because why not? Because this is my stream and I'll do what I want. You can't hold me down. It was the spicy boneyard rib tip ramen, and it was amazing. It was honestly some of the best ramen out there. Chef Wayne also has like secret ramen that you gotta like know about or follow on the Instagram page. And oh, that sounds, yeah, I would love to go down to New Orleans one day. I've been there, but I haven't been there recently, and obviously with Corona, I don't think I'm ever gonna get back to visiting. I used to do, I drove everywhere. I did all 48 continental states in my life. I love driving. I used to drive more, but once you become a dad and get a 9 to 5 job, a real job, I can't do those like long 24-hour drives. I one time drove from New York to Miami just cause. So, yeah, I would love to go to New Orleans. But yeah, so it was amazing ramen, and it was super spicy, and I love spicy food. And then today, my wife calls me. She was like, "Hey, what are we gonna have for dinner?" And I know this isn't Pathfinder. I apologize. She's like, "What are we gonna have for dinner?" And I was like, "I don't know. Whatever you want." She was like, "Hey, I really want," because I'm a jerk and I didn't pick her ramen yesterday, but that's her fault. So, she was like, "Hey, whatever you want," and I was like, "I don't care." She was like, "Well, do you want to go to the Chinese noodle spot?" And I was like, "Sure, pick up Chinese noodle for dinner." So she picked up Chinese noodles for dinner. So they do the hand pulled noodles. It's really cool to get to watch them do that. And they give you spicy chili sauce, and I love the spicy chili sauce, like I said. So I was pouring it in, and my son slapped my hand, and he's only one, so he's still learning fine motor skills. Slaps my hand, whole thing of chili sauce falls out of my hand, bloop, into the soup. Now, I like spice. I got no beef with spice. I don't like wasting food, so I wasn't gonna throw this away because it's still delicious, and the spicy chili sauce doesn't ruin flavor. It just makes the flavor better. Ate the whole bowl, big old bowl. I got terrible heartburn right now, so if you see me making faces, it's just heartburn. This is spice on spice. So I apologize for that. But yeah, so I would love to go back to New Orleans. I went down there. I must have been like 19 or 20. I was young, and I went down to New Orleans, and the food is amazing. Like, it's just like a lot of people outside the United States think American food is just deep fried something, and that's 100% true. I'm not gonna fight you on that one. Americans love deep frying whatever they can figure out. There's actually a place in the city that specializes in deep frying stuff you bring there. I went there for my birthday one year, and it was really fun. I brought Popeye's chicken, and I got it deep fried. So Popeye's chicken is already fried, and then they deep fried it again. It was doubly deep fried chicken. It was not better. I think I probably made it worse. Yeah, New Orleans does booze and food amazing. But like I was saying, I could go off on this. I should have just did a whole stream on just food. Had Fabio pop on. It would have been fun. So, American food, like, or United States food, in my head, it's culturally based. So like, you have the Northeast, and that's mostly seafood, right? And then you have like the South, and that's barbecue. But then you get to like the New Orleans area, and that's like French. It was inspired by the French. Yeah, next Tuesday. Definitely. Yeah, actually, we should do that next Tuesday. You're 100% right. It's like inspired by the French, and it's Southern, but it's Cajun, so it's different, and it's inspired by its history and its culture. Yeah, French and Spanish. And I remember going down there, and I grew up watching Ninja Turtles, and I've never eaten turtle. I've had alligator. But I was down there, and we were in the restaurant, and the waitress. So I always like to ask the waitress, "Hey, what would you get if you were me?" And she was like, "I would get the turtle gumbo." And I was like, "All right, I'll try it." And I had turtle, and I felt bad because in my head I'm just hearing out, I'm gonna eat like the shredder screaming turtle soup. So yeah, that sticky eating, yeah. Um, so but it was delicious. It was mind blowing. Actually, my brother had some too, and we talk about it to this day. We're like, hey, we should go down there and get some. I have no idea what this place was. Um, so you're down there and you're eating that, and it's amazing. It's like a different country, and then you keep heading west, and then you're in the southwest, and that's Tex-Mex. You know, Tex-Mex. Um, and then you hit like California, and then that's all inspired by the Asian immigrants that came to America. So now you have a lot of Asian influences in that area, which is amazing. And then you get like the Northwest and the North, and then like the North, like North Dakota, South Dakota, that area. And then that again is like American food, so that's barbecue and stuff like that. But like, you could, I don't know, like it's just one of the pleasures of living in such a large country and being able to travel when we were able to travel and being able to taste all these different cuisines. The one thing I don't like was when I was in Minnesota, I had it was like called lutefisk, and it was like jello fish with lemon and butter. It was probably one of the worst things I've ever had. I'm sorry if you like it. So, but I digress, right? We could do a food podcast one day. Well, I'll just drag Fabio on. I'm pretty sure if he's watching this, he's gonna be like, I'll talk right now. So yeah, maybe next Tuesday, we'll just do a food podcast. But so my players are gonna definitely get into the Undercity at one point in time. I love Olo. He's my hero. He's really cool dwarf. I like that they're now moving away from the Scottish or the the generic standard dwarf and kind of that I am a dwarf. And just bringing in like a culture that can be anything, right? So you don't have to look a specific way, and I always hated that. You know, whenever you see people like, oh, I'm making a dwarf, and they do a Scottish accent or a Russian, which is the other one, which I think I appreciate more than the Scottish because I've heard the Scottish done to death. So, the Cobalt, Skerix, yeah, seeing people of colors in fantasy books, yeah, it's shh, shh. We don't talk about that. No, they I mean, you know, I'm glad we're seeing that now, but it took a long time, and it's nice to know my friends can see someone and identify with that character. Yeah, it is exactly refreshing. You know, I always say I think it would be interesting to. I always played around with the idea of having my own fantasy world, and I don't think elves would be the most progressive race because they live so long. And in my head, I think the shorter races to them would be like these super progressive people because they're like constantly changing. But elves, because they live so long, in my head, it would be a lot of structure around like social things, like you eat, you know, you pass your cup on your right and no one passes on the left because we don't do that here. I think elves would be like that in my head. If I could do that, I would probably get a lot of hate because people would be mad at that. But in my head, elves, because they live so long, I think change gets scarier, right? Like the older people get. Yeah, Fabio. It does look like Fabio a little bit. Sadly, Fabio's beard doesn't come in as luscious. Yeah, I think the older you get, it gets a little harder for you to accept change. In my head, and I'm not giving anyone a pass or anything, but in the way I see things, you know, it's just you've been around so long, you're scared of change. It's like falling, right? Like the older you get, the less you want to fall. Yeah, like yeah, that's right. Elven baby boomers. Yeah, that's what they would be like. They would be a cultural like stagnation because they live so long. Um, there was a TV show that actually did something like that. It was like it's like a sci-fi TV show. Yeah, it does look like Samuel L. Jackson coming to America. That's just how it is. Yeah, exactly. That's just how it is. That's how elves would think. That's just how it is. Um, because like if you look at I always thought like in Lord of the Rings, right? When they would constantly go axing like the humans or like the hobbits would go to like the elves or the dwarves and they'd be like, "Yo, we need to stop, magical monster guy who is coming to destroy everything." The elves are like, "We're just gonna leave. Good luck." And I was like, "What? Who does that? Like these were like your friends, and now that you're just like, yeah, we're done with this," and then they left, and I was like, "What?" Or like the bigger now's the age of men. You have to deal with it on your own. Who does that? In my head, I'm like, no, bad guys coming. Let's all get together and stop them. But I think that's because we're a young race, right? Comparatively to these long, like for us, someone living 100 years, where we look at them and we hold them in higher regard because they've lived so long and their age and wisdom is valuable. But for an elf, 100 years is like a blink of an eye. They live thousands of years. I think in Lord of the Rings they don't die. They just like hop in a boat and sail away with that stupid Enya song, "Sail away, sail away, sail away," in their head. Um, and the fact that they make dwarves like stubborn, I could see that. But I think they're like stubborn in a good way. Where like that, they kind of pound the hand. They do, yeah, Rob, Kid Tango. They do live like thousands and thousands of years. Yeah, so I think it would be very. I think Bright did a really good job of showing how a fantasy world and a modern world would look like. Because they talked about how like there was still the racial segregation, the actual racial segregation of each other, and how like orcs didn't get along with anyone. And I think there's a scene where an orc chieftain is like, "Yeah, I had a barbecue with orcs and dwarves." Yeah, so dwarves would be stubborn because they're like miners. So if they live recklessly, they can die, which makes sense. Because if you're playing up to the stereotypes of like Lord of the Rings, right, and they're mostly miners and diggers and stuff like that, if you mess around, you die. It's not out of ignorance; it's out of safety and concern. So I could see like that's why dwarves are stubborn as shit, and elves are just assholes. I don't like elves. You'll never catch me playing an elf. Um, so there's that. Uh, but I think it'd be interesting to see like a book or something where like they talk about how like, oh, elves are just fucking assholes, and then gnomes are just tinkerers. So they kind of just do whatever, and halflings are just. In my head, they would be hippies, but like that old school hippie, like stoner hippies, where they're like, dude, what? Like Cheech and Chong, man, that shit was hysterical. I used to love watching that. I don't think you can play that on TV anymore. There's got to be like a giant like warning now. Um, yeah, they would just be high all the time. I mean, they even do it in Lord of the Rings. Like in the movies, they talk about the pipe weed and that they smoke a lot of pipe weed, and that's them being high. Like pipe weed for them was exactly what they that yep. That's why they eat so much. They're just high all the time. They're like, yo, I'm hungry. Um, I think it'd be fun to do like maybe like a campaign, but everyone's in high school. Yeah, it's exactly what it smells like. It sounds like. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do that. I think another channel did that. They were in high school, but they did it in 5th edition. I don't know. It's just interesting to talk about because elves are just assholes in my head. Um, I don't like that. Maybe but again, going back, it's nice seeing. It's refreshing to see media catching up with modern. And it's always hard, and you never know whether or not they're just tokenizing someone, and that's hard. But I find that Sergeant Olo, if they didn't put pictures in, you wouldn't know it because they do say he's soft spoken, he's friendly, and he's kind of the liaison between the players and the sergeant, who's this gruff, angry, typical, standard like captain from every cop movie you've ever seen. And then there's Olo, who is the soft spoken. So I was talking about this with a few of my friends, and they were saying, Olo's Sergeant Winslow from Family Matters, and I was like, that's funny, because he was in Die Hard, so it makes sense because he was like the normal, like level-headed guy, and then you had like the FBI agents who were like, shoot everyone, ah, and one of them's like, this reminds me of Nam, which it dates the movie, but it's still a great movie. It's a great Christmas movie. I can't wait to watch it for the holidays. Carl, yeah. So everyone kind of like made a joke that I think that like they were inspired by like the Die Hard movies, Sergeant Winslow. And that's why they chose that. That's why they made Olo like the soft-spoken, level-headed, and the sergeant like the outside, the crazy, like screaming guy. But again, I appreciate seeing the diversity of the cast. I have the other books. I don't have them on PDF to get to them because we're still finishing this. And like I said, we are in chapter 3. So I suspect tomorrow we're going to get into chapter 3. And if you stream back, actually go into the history of chapter 4, the Murder Hotel, and that's H.H. Holmes. You can clearly see that's who inspired this, H.H. Holmes. But so the players, they hear about a back door from Skerrix, and they go in the back door, and they go through the Undercity, which is full of the undead and stuff, and that is this map right here. I don't know how far they're gonna get. What's awesome is, as you can see, gelatinous cube, which I adore because gelatinous cubes are one of the cooler monsters because they're just the blob. There's no reasoning, there's no rationalizing. It is, even like when you play wolves, like wolves aren't stupid. Like if someone is shooting them with arrows, they will run away. They're not gonna yeah, they are. They're not going to like stay there and keep dying. They're going to, wolves will leave. Zombies different, right? You can shoot zombies. But yeah, that's right, Zeta. They'll just murk you. They don't care. They don't have higher brain function. They're an amoeba, a giant amoeba. So I appreciate the gelatinous cube. I think all dungeons should have a gelatinous cube. So they go in, they kind of walk around. This map could be smaller in theory, but let me bring it up on Roll20 so that you can actually see it. Bloop. So this is the pagoda map. Right, let me zoom out. The reason why I want to bring it up on Roll20, so you can get to see what I see. So there's your gelatinous cube right there, just hanging out. There's a bunch of ghouls. So, see, I think they're gonna get through this. So this is a social encounter right here. The ghouls is a social encounter. Yeah, the gelatinous cube is a great equalizer. I use them. I use one in almost every single campaign I've run because they're just so fun. I always like to do the. So they know undead is in here, right? So I always like to do the floating skeleton in the ooze, where it looks like it's hovering, and there's this aura around it, like a slight eldritch green aura around it, and it's just floating, and every so often it moves, and it you for a second edition, I don't know actually. I never really looked at a cube for a second edition. I can look it up right now. Quickly bring up the stats. So, funny story, my longest magic, yeah, magic would beat it 99% of the time. Funny story, I think they're under oozes. So if you hit ooze, carnivorous blob is an ooze, black pudding, blood ooze, amoeba swarm. Come on. I'll just click ooze. Can I click ooze? Gelatinous cube. Let's look into gelatinous cube. Immunities: acid, critical hits, mental precision, unconscious, and visual. Resistant 5 electricity. Oh, that would hurt Tina back in the game. But salt. Yeah, you could throw some salt on it. Baking soda would work. So it's immune to critical hits, which is that's crazy strong. It's immune to precision, which if someone was playing a rogue, that would hurt them. Mental effects, that is the witch. Tina already had problems with that. And it can't go unconscious because you can't sleep it. Its AC is 10, so they're just gonna be hitting it, right? And that's why I like this, because it's immune to critical hits, because AC 10, most of my players have a plus 10 rolling, so they'll probably always be hitting. So, but its HP is 90, so it has a bunch of HP. Its speed is 15. It does D6 points of acid damage plus paralysis. So if you get hit, you just get paralyzed. It's just good luck. And it engulfs 2d6 acid, DC 19, rupture 7. It is not, but you don't want to grapple a cube because it will. I like, as a DM, I would say if you're grappling a cube, you get engulfed. It'd be, imagine like running up to like Jello and hugging it. You would just kind of get, you would kind of like merge into the Jello and just get, yeah, just auto absorb you. So rupture is you have to deal that much damage in one shot to force it to spit you out. A creature engulfed by the cube must also attempt a saving throw against paralysis. So that's even worse, because paralysis, if engulfed or hit, it has to make a fort of a DC 20. And the only time you could save is at the end of your turn. Oh, wait, a creature, the paralysis causes incapacitation. What? An ability character completely out the fight, or even, and it's harder for one or more characters. If the spell has the incapacitated trait, any creature of more than twice the spell's level treats a result as being to prevent sex better. Master Strike. Curse of Slumber. It incapacitates the creature. Oh, yeah, RKO. Oh, you're gonna love our next season. Oh, if you're talking about RKO, next season's gonna be what's up? Mega crit the Jello. Yeah, that's really what you gotta do. So incapacitation, an ability with this can take a character completely out of the fight. So under the conditions, you go to incapacitated. It doesn't even say anything. What? Oh, is that dying? No, that's unconscious. So what does incapacitated do for you? An ability with this trait can take a character out the game, and it's harder to use on more powerful. So if you're a higher level, these kind of don't work on you. If the spell has the incapacitation trait, any creature of more than twice the spell's level treats a result check as being to prevent incapacitation by the spell as 1 degree better, or the result of any check the spellcaster made to incapacitate him as 1 degree worse. If the effect has the creature of higher level than the item gain the same benefit. So basically it stops that. But what does it do? Like, what if it just, that's it? Like, your character just goes to bed? It's like night night? Let me Google. Let me look this up. Because I went to conditions and it was. And it didn't pop up. So let me search for this. See, and it's rulebook page 633, and it doesn't give me. So it just paralyzes then? I'm just gonna assume you just get paralyzed. Just gives you the paralyzed condition. Oh yeah, you're frozen in place. Your flat-footed condition can't act except recall knowledge and use actions that require your mind. Your senses still function, but only in areas you can perceive without moving your body. Oh! Oh, okay. So basically you get paralyzed. Like, as per the ruling. You can't do anything until you make the save of a DC 20. I don't think anyone, like, that's going to be hard for a lot of players. So that's going to suck for a lot of players. In other systems, when you would deal. Oh, so basically what happens is the paralysis, you gain the paralysis condition, which basically says you can't do any activity other than recall knowledge. You're paralyzed, like numb. Like, imagine like when you're sitting on your leg and you just can't feel it anymore, and you go to stand up and you're like, oh, not gonna make it. That's what happens. You're paralyzed. They have to make a DC 20 save, but only until the end of the character's turn. Yeah. Just, you can't feel your legs, can't feel your arms, you can't even talk. It just says you can only see. Your senses work, so you could smell, taste, touch, and I guess, well, if you're laying down, you would feel, so touch the ground. But you can't. I don't think you could talk. And it says the only thing you could do is recall knowledge. And then you have a fort save. How is this an encounter? Like, this is a crazy encounter, and this is large, mind you. And this is a CR3. This thing is dumb as hell though. It's a -5 intelligence. So it's a vegetable. You are a vegetable at that point. You just kind of fall down and you're just jacked up. Nice thing is you can make the save. Hopefully someone has guidance that boosts you. But this thing's huge, right? So if you're looking on the map, you'll see that this thing is huge and it's actually blocking this. Now there is a right here, that is a ravine that they can run into. So in theory, I mean, the thing doesn't even move that fast. Its base speed is 15. So it's not like flying at you. So you could theoretically get out the way. Now the jacked up part is the ooze, it's on top of the ooze is on top of yeah, the Swanton bomb. Yeah. The ooze is on top of a bunch of treasure. And this is actually the only time in the campaign where I'm allowing my players to just collect treasure, because theoretically they're not taking it from someone. Now, the proper thing to do is to bring it back to evidence and leave it in the evidence locker in that way. But in this, I'm just gonna let them collect it and use it as necessary. This fight's gonna be crazy. I think they could get around it. These are all stone walls, so there's nothing there. I think if they there's no sneaking. These are giant stone piles. There is absolutely no sneaking. This thing has motion sense, so it basically senses if anything's walking. None of them have flying. So like once they're here, that's it. Like this is 1. It's like 5, 10 blanc, and it tags 2 people. It engulfs on its it's 2 action to engulf. So you're kind of lucky. It's up to the DM at that point. Who it's gonna engulf, but I would say it would just auto engulf if it's on you. It should auto engulf. I think Copper is gonna die. Yeah. Because he's all melee. He's gonna be upset about this one. But I digress. If they get around this fight, they come up here. They see a bunch of ghouls, which going back to... I'm gonna switch over to the PDF. Going back to the ghouls, these are the ghouls we see here. Yeah. Copper's not gonna make it. He's just melee. But yeah, these are the ghouls we see. It's not as epic. You see, like, they're coming down the walls and stuff. Sadly, it's not as insane in that encounter. So switch back to roll 20. The ghouls, there are rat folk in here. Now, so here's the thing. Rat folk are now a playable race. They're called the Yokai Yosuki. Yeah, exactly. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to take. So rat folk from Starfinder are now in 2nd edition Pathfinder, but they call them rat folk. They don't call them by their Starfinder name. So these over here are rat folk. They are sorry. They actually have names. Keeker and Grief. And they've barricaded themselves in, and they are rat folk. Yeah, so they are rat folk. So they are a player race now. I thought they might be were-rats, because a lot of times, like, that they kind of get used interchangeably. And I've been reading a lot of Warhammer lately, so for me, the rat folk in Warhammer are just crazy bad. They actually caused the end times to happen in Warhammer. They bring down a moon on the planet, so it's crazy. But so these are rat folk. So they're stuck in here. They've boarded this up. They're trying to stay away from the ghouls. The ghouls are sealed in here, and now you see over here there are stairs, And let me see if I can kind of drag this over so everyone can see it. Sorry, just give me a moment. How's that? Is that better? So over here, there are doors. You can see over here there are doors, and let's see if I can move the screen gently over. Did that work? Yeah. So you guys can see over here, it looks like there are houses and stairs. And basically they tell you a house actually slid down in here and there's nothing in here, but there are doors. So I appreciate that they give us the option to have wow, that's crazy. To have like more scenario, but I feel like you could not have put that in there or just made it rubble. Like for me, it just seems like a little extra that is cool. Don't get me wrong, it's really cool, but it just seems like they did a lot of extra for no reason, really. Maybe zoom out, you guys can see it better. There you go. Yep, you guys can see it there. Oh, too far. Go in a little more. So yeah, right here, there's like a house that sank in. They literally say they can go in here. Doors aren't locked, and it's just a sunken house. And these stairs go to they're not stairs, it's a tunnel. They just look like stairs. And the tunnel is like a foot wide. Turns out freaking ghouls are like triple jointed and they just tunnel around and it doesn't matter, which makes them even more terrifying than I've ever thought in my entire life. So the ghouls are dealing with the rat folk. The rat folk are going to have a conversation. If the players, they literally say the rat folk are out for themselves. So if the players kill the ghouls, the rat folks will deal with them. There's only 3 ghouls. Do I want to add another ghoul? See, I think they're going to be beat up from this encounter right here. I think if I add another ghoul, because the rat folk do attack. They shoot at everyone. They don't know what's going on. So I could see that being like the rat folk just, they take pop shots, but this, because the barrier, it gives all the shots they fire at, the people are in partial cover automatically. So if they're taking a pop shot at you, they're at a -2 to their shot. But when the players defeat them, they're more inclined to talk to the players. So here's the thing. They're smugglers, right? They're smugglers. They're actually running drugs. And I would be inclined to have it that, like, once the players deal with them, they know that they're trying to get out. So maybe they're more like, hey, listen, like, we were down here, we come from the Darklands, and in here they actually talk how they have lemons and stuff, and that they're moving contraband in the Darklands. And then when the players are like, well, what are you moving? They'll show like lemons and like oranges, lemons, limes, and stuff like that. And they're like, wait, that's what you're moving? Like, yeah, in the Darklands, this is contraband. The Durgar don't like let us use this stuff down there. So it's contraband. And the players will be like, all right, fine, just go. It's just fucking lemons. Just get out of here. And they'll leave. But they have a lot of drugs on them. So I could see my players being like, yeah, let go. Don't worry about it. They'll leave. And then they just let like 2 massive drug runners out. I don't know if they're gonna like do a hard search on them. Depending on how hard these fights go, especially this ooze fight is gonna be rough. So I could see that depending on like how hard these two fights go. So there's not a lot down here, right? So they come in here, they go up these stairs. Now they're at here. What these guys are, they're like a weird creature. They're from the Darklands. They're called creepers or something like that. Yeah, they're called creepers. Basically, what a creeper is lore wise, they're humans that fled to the Underdark when Earthfall happened. So Earthfall was like this planet's extinction event that happened during the Thessalonian Age, thousands of years ago. And yeah, the gang will walk past the Pablo Escobars of Rack Folks. Yep, that's exactly what's gonna happen. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. If I play them like the least shady possible way, they're just gonna let them go. And they're gonna have that thing where like the Rat Folks take a picture in front of like the Capitol, and yeah. So the Dark Creepers are like these humans that went into the Darklands and they magic, and now they like these weird things. They let's see, I can bring up. Do they have a picture of creepers? No, they do not have pictures of creepers. Let me see. Maybe I can. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let me see. Go over here. So let's see what we can see. So the best way to put them is like they have like this weird like bulbous nose, and they wear all these black cloaks around them, and if you Google them, you'll see what I'm talking about. But they were human at one point, and now they're just ugly monsters. So the creepers are actually running from Varghouls, and I'm not 100%. Let me see if I remember what Varghouls look like. Varghoulis. There you go. Yeah, that's yep. So Varghouls, I actually, yeah, I love these things. So you guys can see what they look like. Oh, this is 5th edition stuff. Oh, there's a Pathfinder one. There you go. Bang. 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 Can you guys see this thing? Yeah. So it's a human. It looks like a human head with tendrils and bat wings. And I love these things. These things are so freaking cool. Because they are terrifying as all heck. There you go. There's a nice big ugly green one. So I actually got to use these long ago, and they're like some of my favorite creatures. Yeah, they are metal as fuck. So I was playing Curse of Strahd, right? And Curse of Strahd, as you know, is a 5th edition campaign, nothing to do with Pathfinder, and vampire, right? Very, monster horror. So they were searching through a house at this point. The campaign kind of went off the rails, and as most of my campaigns do. The campaign is I always focus my campaigns by the players. This is actually the only campaign where the campaign is pushing my players. Most of the times, I let my players push the campaign. So in Curse of Strahd, they did a lot of things. The evil has gotten more powerful, and the players are dealing with that. What now is happening is they're like going through a house, and they go into like this massive dining hall, and they see people. They sneak in, right? And it's a big dining hall. They see people sitting around a table, and at the center of the table is this giant silver platter, and there's the old with the silver top, like oh man, something's gonna be hidden in there. It's large. It takes up a large table. They see people dressed in fine suits, and then all of a sudden, via magic, the thing lifts up and disappears. unseen servant, right? Unseen servant lifts it up, and it's a human laying on the table. And then all the people sitting around the table are like, oh, this looks delicious. I can't wait to eat it, blah, blah, blah. And they're all sitting there. And at this point, my players jump out. They're like, stop what you're doing, you filthy vampires. And their heads all turn to the players. And they're like, we're not vampires. And they're like, no, blah, blah, blah. And then the cleric comes in and goes, I turn undead. And Varghouls are, I don't think they're undead. They're fiends, but they're not undead. And the cleric comes in and he's like, blah, get out of here, you filthy undead. And they're like, we're not undead. And all of them, their heads start to make clicking sounds, and they do like a 360, and then they pop, and all the heads kind of pop off at the same time, and the wings sprout out from the ears, and they take to the sky, and they were all Varghouls in there. And like all the players were like, that's terrifying. Close the door. And I was like, what? They were like, we're leaving. We don't want to deal with that shit. And I was like, you're leaving the person? They were like, yeah, man, what the fuck? Why the hell are these things? And they ran, and then some of them were like shooting. And the Varghouls like blew down the door with like their sonic screeches and stuff like that. And then it became like a combat encounter, and they wound up saving the person. The person was like, were you gonna leave me? And they were like, no, we were trying to lead them away from you. So it was a really cool encounter. So I like Varghouls. I think they're an interesting race, monster, fiend, and they don't get enough play. They are metal as hell, and if you play them right, you can just like have a very creepy encounter. I was inspired by the Hellboy cartoon. There is a Hellboy cartoon, Blood and Iron. No, it's not the Blood and Iron. It's the other one. Hellboy's voiced by Ron Perlman, and in the cartoon, Hellboy's in like Japan, but like a folklore Japan, like very folklory. He deals with a kappa, and he deals with like these ghosts. And I think they kind of like either they inspired those monsters. I'm not sure, but they're very similar. So they're in a tea setting, and then he shows up and he falls asleep, and then all of a sudden, the heads of the people are like looking around for him to eat them, and he steals their bodies and throws it in the lake, and then the sun come up and they die. They might be like vampires. I'm not sure. My Japanese monster lore is lacking, but similar effects. So I was inspired by that scene where they're talking and having tea, and then the players get in, and all of a sudden they realize these aren't normal monsters. These are headless flying monsters, or flying head monsters, and that's creepy as shit. Like you throw that at your players in the right setting, they're like, I don't want to deal with that. And that's literally what they said. They were like, I don't want to deal with that. So these guys, turns out the Pablo Escobar of Rat Folk and the Creepers were doing their drug trade. The Varghouls showed up, caused havoc, because they are coming from the Darklands, and the Darklands in Pathfinder 2e is the Underdark that you would think of for like 5th edition. So if you're trying to understand it, basically it's like the subterranean universe. And in there's a lot of weird things. They actually have a lot of cities in there. Drow live in there, or Dark Elves. I don't know if they still call them Drow in this. I think Wizards might own that term. Dark Elves live in there, and stuff like that. Turns out, I didn't know this, the Tien Elves hate the Dark Elves because, and this is Pathfinder as I understand it, because they were one race at one point, and then those were the elves that went into the Underdark, or the Darklands. So it's an interesting world. Darklands, there are hobgoblins in there. It's a whole universe. You could play in there. I think there's a lot of fiends in there because of the World Wound. There was this really cool campaign for Pathfinder 1st edition, and the entire campaign is basically Dante's Inferno. You go through like the 9 layers of hell, except you're not in hell. You're on their planet. And what happened was there's this massive, they called it the World Wound, and it opened, and there was like demons and shit coming out. And your players go in there, and it's called the Shining Crusade. and your players go in there, and you're supposed to play like a cleric or a paladin, or a inquisitor. So choose something with divine magic is basically what they're telling you. Yeah, it is an underrated game. 100%. That game is that campaign was underrated. That one was really fun. So I digress. So I don't know how this is gonna play out over here. I think we're only gonna get to this, because we had 3 combats before, because we have they still have to finish the Dragonfly Pagoda map. And you can see all of them are over here in this area right here. Boop. Ping, ping. And then here are they're waiting. And this is what I was talking about over here. We can zoom in to this section. Right here. You'll see they are holding hostages. Actually, I should probably put in some hostages, right? Nah. I have zero faith that they're gonna beat that cube. Honestly, that cube is gonna destroy them. So they're holding hostages here. I forget the number of hostages, but that's a role play encounter. So I could see them like, this is combat. This is role play. So that's like 2 big encounters. Then it's the Darkland stuff. I mean the backdoor stuff. You know. So I think this is gonna take up a lot of their time, especially these ghoul encounters. You know, with the rat folk, with the Pablo Escobar rat folk. That's my new favorite saying. I one of them's gonna be named Pablo from now on. Just cause I have to do it now. But yeah, I don't think this cube is gonna mess them up. And it's I love Roll20 with this. Roll20 makes it easier. Because I play Fantasy Grounds. If you haven't checked it out, every Sunday morning. God bless you if you're up at like 8:30 a.m. I play with the Dead Aussie Gamer. A ton of great role players. A Roll for Initiative, Dum Dum Dice, Becca from, oh man, don't let her know I messed up her stuff. So we are playing Rise of the Rune Lords, and we're having a blast. And this is my, none of the characters feel like the type to run from it. No, they're not gonna run. That's the problem. Or like try to avoid the encounter. They're going to head on, just smash face. I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. They're just gonna run into that fight, and they're just gonna, yeah, they're just gonna run into that fight and hurt themselves. It's a shame. We'll see what happens. Caustic Phoenix. Yeah, Caustic Phoenix. Caustic Phoenix. Becca. She's amazing. From so Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's on the Dead Aussie Gamers channel. I'm running Rise of the Rune Lords for them, Caustic Phoenix, Dum Dum Dice, Roll for Initiative, and obviously Dead Aussie Gamer. And it's a lot of fun. So it's a different perspective because they talk their way out of a lot of stuff. But my players here, they're not those types. They're not gonna. I mean, you really can't talk your way out of a gelatinous cube fight. What would be smart is to like rope-a-dope the shit out of this gelatinous cube. But yeah, so when on Sundays when I do that stuff, it's all in Fantasy Grounds, and Fantasy Grounds is great. Their initiative tracker, they have a lot of stuff. It's not as intuitive. Like, you have to be a little bit more tech savvy, I feel, to use Fantasy Grounds. Obviously, I use both, but I feel like, you know, Roll20 is a bit easier for like the lay person or the person who doesn't have a lot of time, because they could totally rope the shit out of this. Because it could because I would put it on the token layer, and then I would move to the token layer, and then here it would move like here, and then because it starts here, so it's 5. Sorry, so it's 5, 10. And it would stop here, and they have all this. They're like, oh no, that's the problem, is they get stuck. But they could all kind of come here and be like, I'm gonna make as much noise as we want, and then it's gonna move 5, squeeze, so that's 15, and it's now stuck. So here they could stick it, right, and then make sound, keep shooting, make sound. Its turn. 5, 10, and it would have to start to squeeze, which takes double movement, so it doesn't have enough movement. And at that point, they can all run this way and then run this way, 3 actions, and get around it. So they would have to play it like that. Put that on the GM layer. And the last thing I didn't really talk about is the Grick that's over here by the water, by the entrance to the club. There is a Grick right here. So that does attack, and that's a high level attack. That's a hell of a fight. This AP is really it's tough. If the players aren't thinking, like my party, they think on their feet, they're good. But I could see them like just hitting every one of these encounters, and that's the biggest problem, is I'm scared for them. Now they do live in Absalon, so they can get healing potions. That's not a problem. The problem is they're gonna take a beating. Now I believe they should be level 2 when entering this. If I am not mistaken, they will get a level at the end of the Dragonfly Pagoda, and then that will get them to level 2 here. Sorry, I'm just looking through the in all of these, they kind of say at what level you should be where. So the agent should reach level 2 after resolving the hostage situation at the Dragonfly Pagoda, and they're level 3 in the Dreaming Palace, which is the Murder Hotel. No, it's a Sierra 3 Zeta. So they're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff. And then they should reach level 4 before they delve into the Dreaming Palace basement, and they are level 5 at the conclusion, because they pick up at level 6. So I don't know. I mean, the cube is going to be a hard fight. If they rope-a-dope the shit out the cube, then fine. Then they really get the cube's attention and kind of push it into these tight squares. I think Fabio and Steve and Trevor and my party knows to do that. I'm just scared that like they're going to panic, and in that panic make poor decisions. If that makes sense. Because individually, they are all super clever. Like, Tina is really clever. She's hit a bunch of people with sleep and encounters. Trevor used his dragon, the summon abilities to, like, teleport and move himself around the map very quickly. So he's very smart with that, you know. And they're all gamers. They're very great gamers. The problem is, again, in those encounters where things go south, people panic. It's a thing, and I could bring up character sheet. Let me like. So if I look at yeah, the cube is Mike Tyson. So if I bring up Tina, she has 15 HP. So even at level 2, she's not going up too much more. If I look up at Chakran Dean, he's got 18. The cube does a ridiculous amount of damage. How much does this cube do? Yeah. I think it's a large amount of damage. As you can tell, I'm focused on this cube because it is the first thing they kind of see when they come into this thing. I think maybe they could have put 2 amoeba swarms, which would have been in a really cool encounter. Swarms suck. Its cube, right? Melee is plus 11, and it does D6 plus the paralysis. So if I go over, his fort save is, let's see. So I'm just gonna roll it real quick. I did not pass the fort save. I have to beat a 20, and I just got a 13. So I'm paralyzed. Enter my go, it's gonna engulf me. Got a 3, yeah. Let me keep rolling. There you go. I am unparalyzed. It took me 1, 2, 3 turns to unparalyze. Tina's is even worse than Jeff's. Oh, there, she passed. It only took her 2 turns. So, I mean, am I going to get rid of it? No. Because I'm a mean bastard. Oh, okay. So, it looks like Savius has expert in fortitude. That's pretty dope. So, he passed on his first turn. Doesn't even take paralysis. Let me see who else. Copper. Copper is the one I'm scared about right now, actually. Oh, he has expert, and he has plus 7. So, Copper should be fine. Yeah, passed. First roll. So, let's see what Neolock looks like. Neolock shouldn't be too bad. Let's see what Neolock got. Neolock failed. Oh, there you go. Second turn. And Ryder. Poor Ryder. Oh, Ryder's expert. Ryder's got a plus 8. Ryder passed. First turn. 24. Almost crit. I mean, it's not so bad. I don't think Tina and Jeff are going to be in the mix. Yeah, the transparent trait is really cool because it says they can't, it's like virtually unseeable. It's so clear, it's difficult to spot. You need to make a really high perception check to notice a stationary cube. Yeah, so it even says, yeah, Jeff runs away from oozes. So what happens if no one's searching and the whole party walks into it? Yeah, well, everyone's engulfed. It starts out with a bang. So let me see. It's, yeah, 23 perception. That's not terrible. Jeff is a druid, so he has high wisdom. So Jeff will probably spot it. What's the likelihood that they all get engulfed? Well, it's large, so it can only hold 4 players inside of it at once. So fairly low. I think it would just engulf the first 2 people, and then the moment 2 people start to scream silently, right? Like imagine that. Like you're like now you have to put yourself in the mindset of the player, and then you have like, so you're hanging out with your friends and you're walking down the stairs, or you're going into a room, and you go into a room, and then all of a sudden like you see your friend in front of you walk in, and then stop and struggle and start to like they try to like turn, and it's like that slow motion nightmare where you can't really move as fast, and they start to turn, and then they look at you with their face, you know, cocked in a weird direction, and they open their mouth, and you know they're screaming because they're in terror and their face has terror, but no sound comes out because they're inside an ooze, and that's terrifying. And that's how you don't deal with an ooze, because I would be like, I don't know what's happening. My friend just walked into an invisible thing and is now screaming, and I can't hear them. That's terrifying. Yeah, that's terrifying. I think that would be a fun encounter. If you want to be if I wanted to be a jerk, I could move the ooze into a really weird spot. Like right here. Can we see where I'm poking to that? Like right here. If I wanted to be a jerk, right? Like GM overlay, I move the ooze. Bong. Right there. Players come down the stairs, bloop, into ooze. They die. A monster in an ooze dies. They're engulfed. Everyone, oozes are. You don't tame oozes. Oozes just are. So I could be a jerk and just have the ooze sitting here. I mean, they put it here because I'm assuming they had players like walk right into oozes. The chart, how monsters in ooze work. I would say if like, let's say a ghoul, right? Like let's say somehow the ghoul came over here and the ghoul was in the ooze. The ghoul's in the ooze. That's it. Oh, you're talking like, or are you talking about the monster encounter chart, like the how hard is something? Yeah, no, you get the colons. I don't think any of my my mods are on, and I actually don't think I have modded because I'm streaming via me on this, but I don't think any of my mods are on right now. If you're on next week, if you're on tomorrow with us, I'll make sure they give you the ability to send links. But you're talking about like the chart, the encounter difficulty chart, like where it would fall. It's a CR3, so it's a fairly hard encounter because they're supposed to be what's it called? They're all level 2. So if I were to do the if you're looking at the like building encounter stuff, so party level, so the like if you're building an encounter, like choosing the creature, each creature costs XP for a budget, right? And so if you're looking at the party level, so the current party level is 2, right? But all of the games, all Pathfinder is mostly set for 4 players, right? So on page 489 on the core rulebook, they do say, depending on how, if you're over the party size, it does change the budget. So it says party level. Was it? So I believe you get. Sorry, encounter budget. So you can remove XP or add XP depending on your encounter budget. And what that is the table 10-2, just creature XP and roll. So if you have more than like the standard, you get, I believe, an additional 15 points, 15 XP. So if it's 2 more, I would have theoretically. Oh, the chart with the oozes. Sorry, like the type of oozes. Yeah, those are just different oozes. Like yeah. So different. There are tons of different oozes. Like blood ooze is a cool ooze and stuff like that. Like the carnivorous blob. Like me, you could throw 2 amoeba swarms, and for a level 2 party with 4 players, that's a CR2, which if you're looking at the building encounters, that's the party level. So you got 40 XP. You know, that's kind of the party level right there. But they are swarms, and that's a problem. Swarms are difficult. Because then, like, the swarm is resistant to slashing, piercing, but fire damage does a ton to them, and they have a lower AC, but their resistance is 4, and they have lower hit points. So you could mess around with that. The gelatinous cube is 3, so I think that's technically on par for my party because I have 5 players, 6 players. Yes. Yeah, I have 6 players, so it's technically on par for my party. So they should be fine. They'll be fine. They're just gonna die. Yeah, oozes are dope. I like oozes. I like oozes a lot. Expect that Fabio's character is going to lose his hair, because every time I've ever done an encounter with Fabio and his character with oozes, he loses his hair all the time. His character just loses his hair. It burns off. We played a 5th edition campaign when 5th edition first came out. This was actually... So when 5th edition came out, they didn't release the GM book or the bestiary. They only had the starter kit, which was the Mines of Fendelver. So we were playing in Mines of Fendelver, and we built characters and stuff, and it was really fun, and we wanted to keep playing these characters, so I threw an ooze in. The monster manual came out, and why not have an ooze? Oozes are like, if you're gonna do anything, I think everyone's always like, Goblin is a typical fantasy monster. I think oozes are a typical fantasy monster. I think they're way more fun. You don't have to worry about them being smart or clever. They just are, which is I think fun. So the ooze drops onto Fabio's character, Bravos, and his character loses his hair. Yeah, he was like so happy. He, like, when he built his character, he was like, he just very sneaky. It is very sneaky. So when he built his character, he made sure to point out that his character had like long dreads, and he wrapped them with gold, filled like he entwined like gold around them, so they were like golden. And the first thing I hit him with was ooze, and it was like acid and burnt his character's eyebrows and hair. And then like we were playing, and this campaign went on for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And we went to level 20 on this campaign, and his character met like 3 more oozes, and all of them burnt his hair off. One time he fell into a trap that was literally just an ooze in a pitfall trap, which I thought I was clever about. It was a pitfall trap. He walks on top of it and bloop, falls right into an ooze. And he was like, "Am I in the ooze again?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, so my character has no more hair," and I was like, "Yeah." Happened to him all the time, every time, and I never tried to do it out of spite. Yeah, this was the campaign that like at the very end, it became like almost an anime. It became Dragon Ball Z. There was just so much. An ooze PC. So you mentioned that there is I don't know how they work, if they're gonna work that into 2nd edition Pathfinder, but in 5th edition you have the Genasi race, right? Which is a race that your blood is part of the you're from one of the planes. So like you're a fire Genasi, so you're from the planes of fire and stuff like that. There was a Genasi that was based on ooze. There was like supposedly a plane of ooze at one point. I think it was like in 2nd edition, maybe 3rd edition. Jeff knows more about this. But you could be an ooze Genasi. And I think that's pretty cool. I always wanted to do a character like that or homebrew it. And it is the land of Ooh. And I would play it where your character could be an ooze, but they still have a skeletal system. So they have to keep all your organs in place. And then I would say you would have resistance equal to half your level or 1 to slashing and piercing. Yeah, and I would give you a negative to charisma, maybe a plus to con, and a plus to dex. Yeah, because you're an ooze, so you could kind of like wiggle out of everything. Yeah, and you can only be named Ivan Ooze. Yeah, you have to be purple. Yeah, like maybe like something like Ivan Ooze would be cool, where you're more of like a solid, and then you could become a liquid, like as an action. And it dumps your speed, but you're in like you're immune to all physical damage until, but like AOE damage hits you, and fire. Like that would be a really interesting race. If I understood 2nd edition's rules better, I would definitely homebrew an ooze race, like an ooze ancestry. I think that would be fun to do. Like you maybe live in a jar. That'd be fun. I always find 2nd edition is or Pathfinder is really great. Like I like Pathfinder. Oh, my favorite one that I would want to see in 2E. My favorite class I would want to see in 2E. I don't know. I'm like the Inquisitor. Actually, fine. I'll say it. The Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is an interesting class. From 1st edition. I never got to play. I lied. I did get to play it. I made a society character. That was an Inquisitor, and they were pretty dope. They were fairly cool. I wanted the Cavalier, but the Cavalier is now an archetype, and that made me sad. I liked the Cavalier class a lot more than I think anyone else did. I think when they did like the poll for second edition to see what like classes people wanted, Cavalier was like the worst one. Like no one wanted it, and I did not understand why. I was like, I thought the Cavalier was a really cool class. I thought they were kind of like a not religious paladin. They got a horse, and everyone was like, well, you can't bring a horse in a dungeon. But if you made a small character, you could. And obviously, so the thing with, I would love to have Steve on now, because he'll tell you. The thing with first edition was a lot of people min-maxed, right? A lot of that game was min-maxed, and it was based around having right magical items for the right things. For someone like myself who just likes playing and isn't really worried about being min-maxed, the Cavalier was fun because you chose like this like not school. I mean you could call it a school, but it was like your order. So you would like the order of the cockatrice or the order of the blue rose, the order of this, that, and the other thing. And they had edicts, which kind of carried over now to the champion in second edition. But the edicts were different things, and like the cockatrice was like you have to big up yourself. Like no matter what, you have to always like your stories will always be you did something epic. So you know, if let's say you fell in a battle and then the cleric rezzed you, it's the other way around. You rezzed the cleric. So I thought that was fun because you could play something like that, and everyone was like, well, if you're stuck in the dungeon, how do you get a big? Well, you have a small mount, or you don't play a Cavalier in a dungeon running campaign. There were other campaigns out there that you didn't have to. I mean, those all have to be homebrew. A lot of them are in dungeons. But Cavalier was my favorite, and second on the list was the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor was kind of a hybrid between, I mean, like it's weird. The Inquisitor is like the Magus. It's a hybrid class. So the Magus is a hybrid between like a wizard and a fighter, or a caster and a fighter. Samurai coming to second edition. Samurai possibly. I believe maybe. That was the other class that was like the Cavalier, was the Samurai, and you could be a Ronin. Shoot. Ninja and Samurai will probably be in an expansion, if any, not an expansion, but like classes brought in. They were, yeah, Samurai were very similar to Cavalier, except they didn't. Did they get a horse? I forget. I think they did get a horse. But you could be a Ronin or a Samurai with like your two big like orders. And I know a lot of people are talking that they want to see Ninja was a favorite, and Samurai was a favorite. Right now, I don't think you could make a Samurai. Don't get me wrong. Gray pelt. You could totally make a Samurai. They have katanas and wakizashis and a lot of the Asian inspired, Japanese inspired weapons. Oh. All the lag. Sorry. They have a lot of Japanese inspired weapons because they brought in the Tengu, and the Tengu comes from Tiansha, and no, they don't have crit ranges anymore like that. Zeta. So they have a lot of the Asian, the Japanese inspired weaponry, in the Japanese and Chinese inspired weaponry in second edition. So you could definitely make it. They do have the Cavalier as an archetype, and you get a pet and stuff like that. So you get a mount. I've basically decided to continue under 1E Pathfinder to the point of converting 2E adventures. That's cool. So I was actually having this conversation yesterday. 2E, their adventures I feel are shorter than 1E adventures. So you're because like I'm doing Rise of the Lords for like the fifth time in a row, but I love Rise of the Lords, and Rise of the Lords is a very long adventure. Um, Even like the first book, like the in the AP, um, is fairly long. You have a lot of like social encounters. You have the Glassworks factory. You have Thistletop. You have the Runewell, and then you also have that's just the first part, and then you go into then you have that's just like the first book, and that's a lot. There's a lot there. The new APs for 2E, I feel like because of the way second edition works, they're very focused now. So they've moved into a very focused way of playing their games because they now have the three systems of working a AP. So you're either in an encounter, so you're in combat, you're in exploration, or you're in downtime. Those are like the three things. So explore. So when you're in like that's basically a dungeon stuff. But they've honed. I feel like 2E's honed things in, and that's why the APs to me feel a little fast. But that's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing either. It's just the APs. I like them. I'm actually having fun with them. I think Age of Ashes is the best of the current APs out. I've had people say Extinction Curse was really fun. I'm playing Agents of Edgewatch, and I think this will go down as a great AP that will bring old players to this system. So if you're an old player, like if you played first edition Pathfinder 3.5, you'll come over and want to play with this one because it's you're using some of that old school knowledge. AP stands for Adventure Path. Society stuff are really fun. If you're converting anything, I would convert the society stuff. I love their new storyline for society is really fun. I've been like reading it, and it's really really fun. There's a lot of great lore in there. Hobgoblins are now a playable race. Yeah, you're right. Adventure Path, they've released over 6 months as a single adventure from 1X. Yeah, maybe 16, maybe 20 hours. Yeah, you're right. Like they are, they've kind of condensed everything, and I like second edition. People have their choices, and no one's wrong for choosing anything. I know a lot of people. I demoed second edition out on the island at a convention, and this is when it was first coming out, so it was still in beta. And I had a lot of people come, and they had fun playing it, but they were like, "I'm gonna stick to first edition." I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, they're still coming out. This is still I want to say like phase one, right? Like if we were looking at it like Marvel movies, this is still phase one. They're still coming out. They just finished the play test for the Magus and Summoner. My current campaign has a Summoner and a Magus in it from the playtest rules, so they haven't even finished all the classes. I know. I think Society is huge online currently. If you want to look for that, I'm a big fan. Due to COVID, we're all online. We don't really like to be online, but we have to do what is safe for everyone. And that's really my problem is I like playing in person. So I'm in the same boat with you, Grey Pelt. I'd rather be in a group playing. But I have definitely talked everyone's ear off, and I appreciate everyone for being here. So if you like what's going on, please check us out tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go till about 11, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be playing Agents of Edgewatch. You will get to see my players die by an ooze, which we had an conversation about. And yeah, that ooze is going to kill them. So I appreciate everyone being here. So I am your host with the most, your friendly neighborhood DM, Jared. And I want to say have a great evening. Be safe out there. And remember, we are Nothing Ventured, Nothing Game. Rolling dice, giving advice, a little bit of that New York spice. Bye.